Ekiddako ku Star TV.
Good evening, good morning viewers, depending on when you are watching me. My name is MWANDHA, the Executive Director for Uganda Wildlife Authority. This month, on the 27th of September, we'll be celebrating the World Tourism Day, and we are going to spend some time talking about that function and how tourism is important for our country. Thank you. Uganda Wildlife Authority is the institution of government that is responsible for managing of wildlife protected areas. It was formed in 1996, and it was a merger between the Game Department and the Uganda National Parks then. You need also to know that conservation of wildlife in Uganda formally started in 1926, and we've been doing the work. First we had wildlife reserves, then in 1952 we got the Uganda National Parks when the national parks were formed out of the wildlife reserves, and we've been managing wildlife since then. We manage 10 national parks currently and 12 wildlife reserves, and then give support to people who are managing community wildlife areas and wildlife sanctuaries. Our work focuses on what I would call 5 major pillars. We look at the ecosystem management, ensuring the habitat for the wildlife is okay, healthy, running. We also do wildlife resource management, where we deal with the wildlife itself, ensure that it is in a healthy situation. And then we do ecological monitoring and research. This helps us make decisions that are scientific, that are based on data that we collect. And then we work with the communities, community conservation, raising awareness, dealing with human-wildlife conflicts, doing enterprises so that people can benefit from the wildlife that they have on their places. And lastly, we do tourism and business development, and this is really the reason for this interview. And here we focus on providing the products and the services that people can visit our parks, can visit our reserves, can enjoy the time there. They have people who are guiding them, they have where to sleep, where to have a meal, and they are able to really benefit and enjoy the time they spend in a conservation area. Actually, it is not just now. We have always talked about communities being involved. Look, all protected areas, the 22 that I have mentioned, are located in communities. They are protected areas, but the neighbors are communities. So if you are going to protect those wildlife that are in those areas, you need to have the communities on your side working with you. So we employ them as rangers, we employ them as guides, we employ them as wardens and directors. That's first and foremost. But we can only employ a certain number. Currently our staff is about 2,250 in number. But we need more Ugandans to be benefiting from wildlife conservation. So we then talk about communities doing their own tourism activities, either in their protected areas. We talk about them supplying the food and other things that the lodges that will need. We talk about the communities providing transport for the tourists. And then we then work with them on to also address human-wildlife conflict, because the wildlife that is in the parks actually gets out and creates challenges for the communities. And so we work with them to ensure that that is addressed. And then on top of that, we provide projects that are for livelihood, for income generation for these communities. So the issue is that it's not starting now. We've been engaging the communities of the long time. Currently, these protected areas are doing fairly well. One needs to know that we had fairly big numbers of wildlife prior to the 1970s. And then in the 1970s, the protected areas were degraded. Most of the wildlife was cleared, killed, sold for ivory, for skins, for meat. And by 1985, we had reduced, in general terms, to only 10% of the wildlife we had before. And then we started working systematically to, one, stop the poaching, two, to stop the encroachment, and three, to put value in this wildlife. And I can tell you that right now our numbers of wildlife have grown, and some of them are actually higher than pre-1970. Like the Uganda Kobe, that was about 70,000 at that time, we have over 110,000. And so the numbers have grown. The gorilla numbers have also grown. We have more than 500 in Uganda, out of the roughly 1,000 that we have in the whole world for the mountain gorillas. Incidentally, they only happen to be in Uganda, in Rwanda, and the DRC. So if we have over 500, we have more than 50% of the mountain gorilla species numbers in the world. And then we have seen that encroachment has reduced, poaching has reduced, and that's why we are seeing the numbers go up. Also, the benefit that the communities are getting has grown, and so we have support that we get from the communities in addressing the issue of poaching, because we are working directly with the communities on that. The challenges are many. Poaching is one of them. The other one is limited funding. When we talk poaching, it goes hand in hand with illegal wildlife trade. The other one is limited funding to do the work that we should do. And in terms of what we are doing, to deal with poaching, we have intelligence, we have people who are picking up information that we follow up and use to either create awareness among the communities, or if we are not creating awareness, then we are going ahead and arresting the people who want to do poaching. And then the intelligence informs law enforcement that goes out to do the arrests. The law enforcement hands over to investigations. Investigations then investigates and prepares a court file that is later sanctioned, normally by the state attorney on behalf of the DPP. And then we have a prosecution arm that actually goes in court and urges the case out in court. So we have those four arms working very closely together: intelligence, law enforcement, investigations, and prosecution, to ensure that we reduce poaching. But at the same time, we also go out and create awareness among the communities who are often misled. And then we work with lots of other government agencies especially to reduce illegal wildlife trade. We are working with the UPDF, with police, with the URA, with immigration, with financial intelligence agency, with our Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, with the NEMA, with the National Forest Authority. So we are working in what we call the National Wildlife Crime Coordination Task Force to ensure that together we stop the poaching. Then the other thing is to work with the communities to provide them livelihood projects so that together with them, when they see benefit, they are able to work to prevent the illegal wildlife activities. And that we do through the revenue sharing, the resources that we pick 20% according to the law of our entry figures, entry fees, 20% we put it aside and put that into community projects that helps us. So we work that way to try and address the problem. Now, there is a new law, the Wildlife Act 2019 provides for compensation, and the compensation is something that we hope we'll be able to implement soon. The regulations are almost ready. We are waiting for the first Parliamentary Council to finalize them. When they are done, the Minister will sign them, and we'll be able to provide compensation in another way to engage the communities and reduce illegal activities. And then in terms of the challenges with funding, that is really a COVID problem. And we hope that as government deals with the COVID and everybody gets vaccinated and the transmission of the disease is reduced, we'll get back to full-time tourism. And when that is back to its original pre-COVID numbers, we should be able to get the funds that we need to invest in managing the protected areas and the wildlife there. As I did mention earlier, we have activities that we undertake. We deal with poaching, we deal with encroachment, we engage in communities to ensure that the communities actually benefit, and that reduces the threat to the wildlife. And then we manage the habitat. The habitat, one of the challenges we have there is what is called invasive species. And when we manage the invasive species, the wildlife has space to be in, and when it has space, then it grows. And as you have already mentioned, the population already is going up for most of the wildlife. So already we are seeing success in that area. But I think the other thing is that when a tourist comes to a park, he needs to see the product. So this tourist is coming to see the animal, he's coming to see an elephant, he's coming to see a lion. So we need to ensure that those lions are there. And we have the relevant routes, tracks that take them to the position, the places where they are. And so we are managing the park in such a way that there is access and the product is there. We are engaging the business people to put up accommodation so that a visitor can come and stay and enjoy the time they spend there. On the waters, we provided boats, both managed by UA, but also by private companies that take people on the rivers or lakes to be able to enjoy the wildlife and the landscape in these protected areas. For example, Maction Falls, Queen Elizabeth, and Lake Mburo each have boats that visitors can use. So what we do is provide the product, provide the service, and ensure that the guides are there and the infrastructure that enables a tourist to enjoy his stay in a protected area. So that's what we work on. That's what you will find most of the time that enables the tourist to visit. Our main role is to ensure there is a product. that product, which is called wildlife, is there, that it is vibrant, that the numbers are good. And we do this through the conserving the integrity of the protected area, the habitat where the wildlife is. So that when a tourist comes, he has something to see and do while he's in the park. And when they go back, if he's not Ugandan, he will say Uganda as the place to go to. If he's Ugandan, he will tell relatives, friends, and in-laws, so that, you know, I went to Queen Elizabeth, I enjoyed the boat. Please, you need to go and enjoy it yourself. So that is one way in which we promote tourism. The other is to support the Uganda Tourism Board. Uganda Tourism Board is the government entity provided the responsibility to market Uganda and the tourism products that we have. And for them to have something to market, we provided that item to market. So we provided the national parks that they are able to market and provide them with the relevant information and then be able to do the marketing. And then we also, as an entity, promote and sell our products directly, especially to Ugandans. You know, ensuring that the product is there, the services are there, and we create awareness. And I thank UBC and STAR who are now interviewing me, and I hope this will get out, that people know that there is a availability. And then we use the digital platforms and social media through Twitter, through Facebook, and others, and then our own website. And then we also get TVs to various television stations to go into our parks, know what is there, and when they produce this into whatever series they make, they are helping us to market Uganda. The other way is to support the private sector, the lodges, the tour operators, with what they normally call familiarization trips. When they approach us and say, I have this marketeer from Canada, we need them to know what we offer. We actually normally offer them free entrance or a reduced rate, so that they pick the information, they are able to film some of our products, they are able then to go out and market not only the national parks but also our country, Uganda. So that is another way we do. And then we provide the products which the tour operators can then get interested in and put on their itineraries, and we continue broadening those so that we have more and more, so that our visitors take longer in our protected areas. And finally, by just providing good quality service and customer care, when we do that, when you visit and you're treated well and you're guided properly, you will want to come back. So you'll continue returning, and we believe that is another way in which we promote tourism in the country. COVID-19 has given us a big bad blow. You can say it has given us a blow on the nose. It's painful because last year, at some point, almost for 3 months, we are not receiving any visitors, meaning that we are not receiving any money. And then even when that first lockdown was lifted, we could only receive about 5% of the visitors and the revenue that come with them. But that has improved up to the end of June. We had almost reached 30%. And we hope as we go along, we are seeing at the moment we are around 50%. But this is the highest season for foreign visitors. So COVID has impacted our visitor numbers. By impacting our visitor numbers, it has also impacted our revenue. And by impacting our revenue, it has impacted our activities, because the uniqueness of Uganda Wildlife Authority is that we market the products we have. People come and visit, and whatever money they give, we plow back into conservation. We have not been getting direct subvention from government. The good thing is that when we got stuck, we actually went to government and said, help us, and for this quarter they've given us some money that we are putting into staff salaries. Otherwise, we were in a very, very bad state. And then the numbers of visitors has dropped to about a third of what we normally get, even at this moment. So COVID has really impacted our business badly. And we have therefore focused on two things in terms of our priority activities: addressing the conservation of the wildlife through stopping poaching and encroachment, and addressing the problems with the human-wildlife conflicts that we get, because if we do not engage the communities and we lose them, we will even lose the wildlife, because then they will be part and parcel of the people who will do poaching. So when we address the poaching and then we address the challenges with the communities, we are able to manage better. So we've focused on that and have left out any capital developments, which are really necessary, because some of our rangers are staying in very bad conditions and we needed to improve them, but because we don't have the resources, we have had to suspend those. What we are doing to increase the tourism numbers is to market our products. First of all, we develop the products. For example, boat rides, gorilla tracking, chimpanzee tracking, game drives. So we develop these products and then we market them. Then when people know, when I go to Maction Falls, this is what I will do, then they plan and travel there. So we develop the products, but at the same time we also develop the service, because when you come to Maction Falls, how are you going to be attended to? Because if you are attended to well, as I mentioned earlier, you will come back again. So we also develop the service. So we develop the product, we develop the service. We're also looking into going forward. What new products can we put? And we are already engaged in looking at canopy walk, for example, which will be new in Kibale. We are looking at developing zip lines in other places. We are looking at rock climbing in the mountain parks. So those are things that we want to develop as additional products to bring in additional visitors. The World Tourism Day is on the 27th of September. The theme is to do with inclusive tourism that benefits all. I want to let the clients know, whether Ugandan or East African or foreign coming from the US or Europe or Asia, that one, Uganda Wildlife Authority is managing the protected areas well. The wildlife numbers are growing. The wildlife habitats are good. The health of the wildlife is good. So let them visit. And they need also to know that when they visit these parks, the resources that they give will be plowed back into managing these protected areas and making their visit when they come next better than when they have just come the first time or the third time. So if they come back a fifth time, they will find a better resource. but also their fees that they pay do not only benefit Uganda Wildlife Authority, they also benefit the communities that neighbor these protected areas, because 20% of the gate collections automatically go into a revenue sharing fund that the communities are given to manage their own projects that improve their livelihoods. And then 2% of all the revenue we collect as Uganda Wildlife Authority is now going into a new fund called the compensation fund. And that money will help the communities who either have gotten injured or lost a loved one or have lost their livestock or they have lost their crops. There will be a compensation that we expect to start soon because we've already started putting the money aside. So, if you're a client, if you're a visitor to a national park, know that these resources that you're giving us, we will use them prudently to improve your experience and to support communities live a better life. Not every site you go to needs an electric fence. I need to put that at the beginning. An electric fence works where you have what we call a hard boundary. The community goes up to the boundary of the park, they are growing their crops. Directly on the boundary of the park, you need either an electric fence or a trench that prevents the animals from getting out and destroying the crops. What we have done so far is we have constructed 23 kilometers in Maction Falls, a section on the border with the communities of Oyam district, and another section on the border with the communities of Noya district. 23 kilometers so far from Action Falls. And then we've done about 42 kilometers in Queen Elizabeth, a section of 19.5 kilometers on the boundary of Chambura Wildlife Reserve in the Lubirizi district, and then the balance along the Kasese Chikorongo Road in Kasese district. And that is what we have done so far. Because of limited resources, because of this pandemic, we have not gone as fast as we should have done. We expected that by this time we would have 80 kilometers, but we are short by about 18. Beauty is government has negotiated with the World Bank for additional resources, and we will be getting money, I think, starting January next year. That will put into additional fencing of both Maction and Queen Elizabeth. We hope that as tourism improves, we will be getting our resources that we will add on to that which the World Bank is giving. The World Bank money will deal with 162 kilometers, but we should be able to do more. But again, I need to emphasize that not every boundary requires an electric fence. We must use different interventions, look at the advantage of an electric fence in a particular location, make that decision, and then build it if it must be an electric fence. And where you think that something else will work better, then you go for that, because you must find the best value for money.